Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the ODOT Traffic Data webinar. My name is Mike Fitch with the Ohio LTAP Center here at ODOT, and we appreciate your participation. As we get started, please take a moment to locate the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. During the presentation today, please use the questions box to send in any questions you might have. Looking at the handouts section of the GoToWebinar panel, please note also that a PDF resource is available for reference. With that, we will go ahead and turn things over to Sandra. Hello.
Hey, this is Sandy Mapel with ODOT Tech Services Traffic Monitoring. Anthony Stevens from our office is here as well. We may tag team this, or I may just do the whole thing. We'll see. But welcome. And the goal today is to just educate and show you where you can find a lot of traffic data on ODOT's public-facing website. And ideally, you'll follow along with us. So if you're an ODOT employee, the easiest and fastest way to get there is go to the standard ODOT intranet page, and we are this little car and truck mode there. If you are not from ODOT, you can easily go to the ODOT website, and I like to just search ODOT Tech Services. That'll take you to ODOT Tech Services webpage, and we did just make some changes to this recently, so it may not look the same. And you could go into the traffic monitoring section, or you can go to TMMS, which is our traffic monitoring management system. Oh, we thought this went straight there. Anyway, so you'll want to launch the TMMS. So we'll give everyone a few seconds to catch up to that. The other item you may want to do is you may want to go ahead and make a bookmark right here. Copy that, save it as a bookmark, or a quick link, or whatever you choose to call it. We have several different modules within our TMMS system. A lot of times people will call it the MS2 system. That's the company. Everything is cloud-based. This is kind of our traffic organization of data company. I am only going to go over this, the traffic count section, and very briefly the traffic viewer. The traffic count section and the traffic viewer are basically the same. Traffic viewer is just a much smaller version of the TCDS, and it's more mobile friendly. It's still a website, but it's laid out so that it looks better on a phone. You do not need a login. That's the first question we get all the time. You do not need a login. So get yourself to this website. Very briefly, turning movement counts. If we have any turning movement counts, they're warehoused here. Permitted lane closure is where all of the future lane closures beginning in January are going to be recorded. So if you'll be looking up when lanes can be open or closed, that's where that'll be. Non-motorized is all of our bike ped stuff. Event response, we don't have that module. Not sure why it's in the top row. So click on the TCDS. This is kind of the main landing page, and everyone automatically kind of gets sucked in over here to this left panel, and they want to start searching here. Most often, you may have an address or a specific location that you're looking for, and over here is a place where you can simply put in an address, or you can put in a lat long with just a comma between the lat long. So we'll start by doing, we'll just put in an address over here. It's kind of fun sometimes to put in your own personal home address. I won't do that today. I'll put in the ODOT building. And a little tip and trick there is, because this is basically a Google search on the far right, it's very helpful to put the city and the state. And I don't worry about commas. So this is a Google search. So, you know, there's a lot of Washington there's a Washington, Pennsylvania, there's a Washington, Ohio, there's lots of cities. So be sure to put Ohio in there so you do get located. Strictly a Google locate, that'll find your spot. Now we'll start digging a little bit into the weeds. So go ahead and hopefully everybody is at this odot.public.ms2soft.com. Just this first part I have highlighted. Okay, I'm going backwards just to give everyone a quick chance to catch up. And then when you get to that, click on the TCDS. And put an address up here and hit locate. It'll show you where that is. And then you can scroll in and out with the wheel or the plus minus, or you can use this to zoom in. Anywhere you see a blue dot, we have information. Sometimes it takes a bit of a second for those blue dots to load, so you do have to be a little bit patient. If you don't see those for some reason, you can go up here under the tools. Let me slide this over a little bit so we can see. You could go up here under tools, go to TCDS because that's where you're at. Oh, we're having a hot second here getting updated. There's about 150 of us on today, so we're probably creating a bit of a slowdown into the network world. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Is everyone else's going as slow as this? There we go. So if you don't see blue dots, frequently what you want to do is make sure this is checked. TCDS locations, that's your blue dots. Okay, it was already checked, which that's the default. Now I will tell you, anywhere we have a blue dot, there is data. The data may be very recent or the data may be very old, but everything that we have is here. So if you just click on a blue dot, you'll get a really quick vision of what you have. You'll get an AADT, which is the most common referred to number. AADT stands for average annual daily traffic. That is a typical day. It's not a Monday, it's not a Sunday, it's not the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday shopping. It's an average of all 365 days out of the year. So if you want to know what the total volume is for a whole year at a location, you would take that average day and multiply it by 365 days. We calculate that. I won't go into that, but we have that ability. We developed that. If you want to see the details of that, this is the quickest AADT, most common referred to number. Real estate agents, that's a real general number. So you want to look at it. And then you should get more info popping up over on the left. Come on, there we go. On the left now, you'll see this location ID. That was the location. So we've got this one location. We just picked it because we were interested in this location here by ODOT Central Office. On the left, the top is just, it's location data, location information, where it's located, how many lanes, lat long, count type. Some of these things are things that we use, just general information. Then you go down at the bottom. I'll point out that you can look at information strictly by direction, or you can drill down all the way. So this is just eastbound data. You could look at westbound data. You could look at individual lane data. And if you notice this lane data, I'm in eastbound lane 1, eastbound lane 2. If you're like, well, which one's 1 and 2? Anywhere you see a little help button, little question mark, that's good to know. Most of the time, you want to look at two-way. So we'll stay within that zone. So up here is historical AADTs. So if you're looking at wanting to know what the history is from the past at this location, you can see there was a count actually taken in 2022. 2021, it was grown from 2020. So we didn't take a count because it was grown. 2019, it was grown from 2019. 2019, oh look, there was an actual count taken again. So you can see down here at the bottom, the next section down, you can see where each of these counts actually resides. The other thing to know is if you want a long-term history, don't miss these on these AADTs. We have loaded a lot of old historical AADTs into this system. So if I go to the very end, some of these go back to like 86, 88, 92. So you can see a very long history of data that we've got at many of these locations. So now you're like, well, what's really going on out here? I want the most recent information. So correct me if I'm wrong here, June 23rd. Sorry, I had my eyes dilated this morning. Oh, an error has occurred. We'll refresh. Come on. Let me in. Let me in. Please hold. So the AADT is very, very commonly referred to. Like I said, if you take the AADT and you multiply by 365, that will give you the total volume of travel for an entire year at that location. And a key to know whenever you're using this MS2 system is whenever you see an eyeball, whenever you see an eye, there is more to see. So on the left, if you see an eye, there is more to see. So that means you can dig down deeper, drill down deeper into the system. It's gonna make me do all this again. So I want this Google search. This is like excellent learning. You can put in Google search, an address search, details about the location. You can drill down by lanes. These are helpful. AADTs, I won't click that again, but a lot of them, like I said, go back all the way to 88, 92, a few 86 and 84s. Like I said, when you see an eye, it means there's more to see. So it means you can get more information about these specific counts that were taken on these days. Classification is our 13 vehicle classifications typically. Another little feature is if you want to tell exactly where something was taken, we actually do upload pictures of where the count was taken. So you can see the count actually where it was set up. So there's several pictures there for different ones. I will tell you on really busy roads, some of these pictures are not that good because the counts were put out at night. So just nighttime pictures. Let's dig into one of these volume counts. So let's look at this last one that was taken last summer in June of 22. Right away, you're now into the volume count area. This was collected for 24 hours in 15-minute intervals. So here's your hourly count. So from midnight to 12:15, midnight to 12:15, 120 vehicles, 12:15. So these are each 15-minute interval for that hour count. It was started on a Thursday, ended on a Friday, so it was taken basically on a Thursday. This is probably the area that's helpful since you dove into the eyeball. You can now get reports right here without creating further information. I always start by staying on the two-way because a lot of these reports are already generated by two-way. So this is looking eastbound, westbound, and total volume. So already you can see the data. You can also move back to the prior count that was taken in 2019 and very quickly see how much it changes. Here was one taken in 2016. So you can look and see if the patterns have changed. You can look at a weekly report. Already you can see right away. You can also view this in Excel, and this is probably very helpful. You can view this in Excel, and I won't download the file right now. Oh, there's something we don't understand. Well, I guess I will download. It'll give you a little pop-up. Maybe we'll download. There we go. Nope, that's not it. That's a different Excel file I had open. So right away, you get an Excel file that you can then use for whatever project, whatever information, things that you're looking for. So this is very powerful if you want to add this to a report that you're working on, anything. It gives you the dates, the times, and basically just your counts. If you were in the eastbound tab, you would get a report that only showed eastbound. So be careful whether you say eastbound or westbound. You can get a full weekly report. Some stations we collect for more than one day. So you would see both days by hour as well as the average. You're given the percents. It's pretty helpful. So now let's look at class. So if we go back, it'll keep us in this same thing. We were in volume. Now we want to look at classification. Classification is strictly the types of vehicles. This same count. These are the vehicle classifications. If you're not familiar with that, you can also change it to what type of axles, greater than 3 axles, single unit. You're like, what is all that? Again, the question mark, there's what it means. This is what our classes are. So if you display these class numbers, a class 9 is your typical semi. Okay, so what do we have? A class 9 is your typical semi. Okay, you can also, again, get similar reports in Excel and right off of here. The other area that we collect is speed. Now, an item to really keep in line when you're looking at speed is if you see that the speed has varied from year to year, like one year the speed was, the 85th percentile speed was 47, the next year it was 46. If you see a big variation in this speed, you need to understand that we tell contractors to set US 40 west of the I-70 ramps. We give them a lat long, but they have some flexibility where they set that. So there's signals out in this area. So they may not set it in exactly the same location every time. So that's where the access to the pictures so you can find out where exactly it was set is helpful. So please don't consider a speed from one year to another year. Take it in context is my point. But our speeds, we have 2 standard breakdowns of speed. These are miles per hour. On our short-term counts, these little blue dots where we only count 24 or 48, maybe 7 days, kind of is the top end of how many days we count typically. We generally start with the lowest chunk of data in the 0 to 20 miles per hour and the end at 85 plus. This is a little scary that we did have one person going 85 miles an hour on, if any of you are familiar, this is on US 40 Broad Street out near the ODOT headquarters building. That could be a little crazy. Again, it's also available as a download in Excel. Download, yes. We want to see the speed file. Maybe we want to see the speed file. There's your speed file. So here's your speed file again. It's in Excel. You can manipulate it however you want. Again, this is a little bit scary that in one day we had, 9 people going 85 miles an hour. And I will tell you, speeds on these short-term counts where you see tubes are pretty accurate. They really are. So let's get back into the system. So let's do a little bit more interesting of a view. So go home. So hopefully you understand you can easily put in an address and then pick whatever you want. You can also put a lat long, pick whatever you want. You can do an advanced search. Let's say you're looking for everything in, I'm just going to make up something, in District 12. And you only want everything in Lake County. So if you start typing, it should jump close to that so you can pick it. So now you're like, okay, I've got everything in Lake County. Let's look for everything on the interstate, IR. And so now we'll search. This will give us all the counts on interstates in District 12. Let's just look for Interstate 71. Interstate 71, Lake County, District 12. Hit search. I know there's things on Interstate 71. Oh, Interstate 71 doesn't reach Lake County, does it? Well, let's try Cuyahoga County. Or we'll just try all of District 12 on Interstate 71. So right away, we can see there's 14 locations. You can locate them all. If you say locate, it will only locate the first location. So there may be a case of where you're like, I don't know which one I want, and you can flip through, but I generally say locate all. My map should change. Here's all my locations on Interstate 71 in District 12. The green ones were the ones located. And if you're like, that's too much green and blue, that's where it's helpful to come over here. And you can turn off all those extraneous locations. The other thing you can do over here is you can also turn on just interstate locations. So sometimes it's just as fast to come over here. This is really helpful if you don't want everything. Obviously, there's a lot of interstate locations up there. So we want to see just the ones on Interstate 71. So we can, we might be looking for a certain pattern. We might want to just see how much the AADTs vary across this area. We're waiting for the green dots to show themselves. Come on. There should be 14 dots. Show up. So another thing to keep in mind, and I can show you this now, is once these show up, Obviously, we don't want to kill people on a regular basis putting traffic tubes down on the road. So we do what's called ramp balancing. We have some locations where we know exactly what the counts are. We have continuous locations that we count 24/7, 365. So we know those locations exactly. And then we take counts on all of the ramps. Then basically we add, subtract the ramps and tie them back into a known location. So what we have between different locations is you will see these little subscripts mean something. That's very important to know. When you see an AADT here, it may be from an actual count. It may be from that ramp balancing where we go from a known location, add and subtract. So keep in mind, question mark can give you that information, how it was developed. 8 is very common, modified by ramp balancing on the interstates. Doesn't want to do it for me today to show them all. Anyhow, let's go to these. Let's find a continuous count station. And all of our continuous count stations, when they show up over here, will have either a C or a W on them. And also in the volume data, you will see a lot more info. And I know there's one here. There we go. So here you see a location where we have a count for every single day. So when you now look at this, you can go to a specific day. Let's say you want to go to, you want to see what Labor Day was like. Let's go to, let's go, I know, let's do something more fun. Oh no, I was going to look at Halloween. We're not going to look at Halloween. You could go back in different years. Yeah, so let's see what Halloween was like last year. If you see a gray, it means it wasn't collected. Now you can look at an actual weekly report and you'll get 7 days. You'll get an average of those 7 days. You'll get a flow for that, and you can download all these. You can get a whole monthly report at these count locations. The permanent count locations will have a whole monthly report, which will let you dive in even deeper. And one of my favorite things, there's your whole monthly report by hour. So these are the days, day 1 through 31, each hour. QC status. So we have folks in our office that review all of our counts. We have a lot of QC rules, obviously, that help them do that. They don't sit there and stare at every little speck of data, but we have a lot of QC rules. And so we use those as a guide and help us apply judgment. Sometimes you'll see a QC status that shows unaccepted or atypical. If you see a different kind of classification, a lot of times there'll be a note as well. If we have an atypical count, there'll be notes assigned to that count. Another feature that's very helpful is this compare counts. So this was Halloween in 2022. That was the day I picked, so it's using that as my original year. This is really getting into the weeds, but this can be very powerful if you want to look at different counts to different counts. So I can look at this and say, well, was Halloween really that weird? It was a Monday. So I can look at that same location and I can look at all of the averages of Mondays. You just pick and choose. I don't want to include abnormal counts. Abnormal counts are frequently when there was a huge special event, maybe there was a crash. We know the count was actually correct, but it was unusual for some reason. So we can look at, let's look at every Monday. In all of 22 at this locale. We'll say, so this was Halloween Monday. So let's see, we're curious if it makes any difference. Same location every Monday. It's going to add the average of every Monday. Oh, okay. Halloween Monday was a little bit higher than not. Okay, well, let's see if, I know this, but you could also underscore eastbound. Let's see what all the eastbound Mondays for the year look. Could not add a new date range. Maybe I'm only collecting. Let's see what a Saturday looks like versus a Monday. There's your Saturday. So you can start throwing all these I wonder ifs on there. The other thing is on this compare count, this is your chart. You can also go to your grid and it will start with your base count, which was our Halloween day we picked, and it will compare it. And it will even tell you how many counts there were. So remember, this was the Mondays and this was the Saturdays. So Mondays, there were 50, we had 50 counts, 50 Mondays that we had counts that it looked at. This was, looks like 52 Saturdays that it looked at. So the station was counting all that and it'll do the math for you. And you can grab this data. Unfortunately, you can't grab this data in Excel, but you can do a screenshot and grab it. So compare counts is extremely powerful. You can play a lot of what ifs and you can get lost in the weeds in there.
Hey, Sandy. We have a question in the chat while you're transitioning, if you want to answer.
Yes, what is that chat?
How does ODOT determine the count locations, particularly on local roadways?
So our local roadways so we count every state route every 3 years, and our local roadways are collected via 3 different ways. One is it's a random sample generated across functional classes that we use for sampling to report for the feds for HPMS, Highway Performance Monitor or Management System. I never remember. Anyway, HPMS. The second way is we do a random sample that was generated by ODOT's modeling and forecasting people to help feed the model. And then the third way is we have a cross-section of locations that were generated by the safety folks. So we count some of them every 3 years, some of them every 6 years. So since we count every county every 3 years, we count some of them on, half of them on the 3-year and the 6-year cycle. So most of them are randomly generated in order to feed other data sources. We do offer, this is something new, so if you work with a local, in our last short-term data collection contract, we now allow locals to access that data contract as well. So you kind of get our bulk rate pricing. That's really helpful for locals. We just ask that you have those contractors send us those data files so we can load them into the MS2 system as well. And then they'll also be warehoused for you. So you can work with Anthony or Bridget.
Hi, Sandra. For today's webcast, this is a 30-minute quick webcast, so we'll probably need to wrap up in a minute or two.
Yep, because we went as deep in the weeds as I wanted to go. There's one other item I want to show you. And this is if you happen to be someone that just needs to find a quick traffic count, you want to go to our traffic viewer. It is all the same information, but just the nuts and bolts, and it is mobile friendly. So our main website is not very mobile friendly. This gives you, you zoom in. There's not you could do a search. It'll do the same Google search, but you can zoom in and it will strictly give you a table tell you what the direction northbound, southbound. It only gives you a table and a graph, and that's it. But it is mobile friendly, and it is, you know, that quick on the run kind of data. So that's the traffic viewer. You may want to save that one to your phone. If you happen to be someone that works in the field, that's beneficial. But that's it. You can stalk us on our website if you have more questions, and we'll help you out.
Thanks, Sandra. And is it okay if people email additional questions to you?
Yep. And I may send them on to other folks in our staff that are great as well.
All right, well, very good. We want to thank Sandra and Anthony for presenting today. We really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for your participation.